The lobby of the sleek downtown office buzzed with early morning energy. Phones ringing, heels clicking against polished marble floors. Baristas shouting orders from the attached cafe window. Everything moved with the rhythm of power, money, and status humming beneath the surface. Amid this chaos, a woman stood quietly near the entrance, dressed in a simple navy blue blazer and black slacks. Her natural curls framed her face confidently. Her name was Alicia Brooks, and today was her first day at the headquarters of one of the country's top tech firms. But no one in that lobby knew who she was yet. With a firm grip on her laptop bag and her head held high, Alicia walked toward the reception desk. Before she could reach it, a sharp voice rang out behind her. Hey, you! Maintenance staff isn't allowed to use the front lobby. Go through the back door next time. Alicia turned slowly. The voice belonged to a tall man in a gray suit. His name tag read Mark Benson, general manager. His expression was a cocktail of irritation and arrogance. He didn't even give her a proper look before assuming who she was. Alicia blinked, surprised but calm. Excuse me? Mark waved her off. The cleaning team usually comes in around this time, but they're not supposed to stand around up front. If you need instructions, speak to someone in facilities. Don't just loiter here. People nearby glanced at the exchange. Some looked away awkwardly. Others smirked. Alicia's eyes didn't flinch. Her voice stayed composed. I'm not with maintenance. Mark raised a brow, clearly unconvinced. Oh, then who are you here to see? I have a meeting on the 25th floor. He laughed, short, sharp, condescending. That floor is executive level. It's not open to visitors. You probably meant to say 5th or 6th, where HR runs orientations. No, she replied coolly. 25th. His eyes narrowed. He clearly didn't like being challenged. And what's your name again? He asked, now with suspicion. Alicia Brooks. He tapped on his phone, clearly pretending to check something. Nope, nothing listed under that name. Sorry, maybe your temp agency gave you the wrong address. The receptionist shifted uncomfortably. She recognized the name and had just received a company-wide email, but she didn't dare interrupt Mark, not when he was in this kind of mood. Alicia looked around, taking in the reactions. A few employees were whispering. One young black intern near the elevators clenched her fists as she watched. But Alicia didn't raise her voice. She just smiled faintly. That's all right. I'll take the elevator myself. She started to walk forward when Mark stepped in her path. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Before Alicia could respond, a voice came from the side. Mr. Grayson, the regional director. He just entered the lobby and froze when he saw Alicia. Oh my God, Ms. Brooks. We've been waiting for you upstairs. Welcome to the team. Mark's face dropped. His color drained. Alicia turned her gaze toward him, not with malice, but with a certain grace that made it worse. You're Alicia Brooks? Mark stuttered. She nodded. Yes, I'm a new senior vice president of global strategy. Silence fell over the entire lobby. Mr. Grayson shook her hand firmly. Everyone on 25 is buzzing about your arrival. We're honored to have you here. Come, I'll show you to your office. Alicia's eyes flicked back toward Mark. Thank you, she said, addressing Grayson. Then to Mark, I guess the temp agency didn't give me the wrong address after all. She walked past him, heels echoing with authority. The intern by the elevators beamed. In the executive elevator, Mr. Grayson apologized. I hope you weren't treated poorly downstairs. Alicia smiled politely. Let's just say, some people are quick to judge when they think you don't belong. He looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. No need, she replied. It just reminds me why representation matters and why I'm here. As the elevator ascended, Alicia stood tall, composed, collected, but not unmoved. The exchange downstairs hadn't surprised her. She'd seen it before. Too many times. Different cities, different companies, same assumptions. But this time was different. This time, she wasn't walking into someone else's structure. She was here to reshape it. The elevator opened with a soft chime onto the 25th floor. Wide glass walls welcomed sunlight. Modern desks stretched across open space, and a view of the skyline wrapped around the executive suite like a crown. This was no ordinary office. It was a throne room, and Alicia was about to wear her crown. Mr. Grayson introduced her to the executive team, heads of finance, marketing operations. Some greeted her warmly. Some hesitated. A few wore masks of polite surprise, trying to hide the fact that they hadn't expected a black woman to walk in as their new leader. Alicia had been here before, too, in boardrooms where she had to prove herself 10 times over, where every word she spoke was measured more sharply than her peers. But this time, she didn't come to prove. She came to lead. Her new office was elegant and minimal. White walls, clean shelves, and a large desk facing the windows. On it sat a welcome gift, a bouquet of white orchids and a handwritten note from the CEO. "We believe in trailblazers. Lead with fire, and we'll follow with faith." She smiled. It was a nice touch, but her focus shifted quickly. She had a team to meet and a company culture to audit. 2 hours later, the official staff meeting was scheduled in the main conference room. When Alicia walked in, silence fell again. People glanced nervously at Mark, who sat near the front. He had spent the last hour frozen in a haze of disbelief and shame. The same woman he dismissed like background noise was now in charge of the very company he'd spent years climbing through. He couldn't erase what he said, but he could no longer hide behind his title. Alicia stood at the head of the table, confident and calm. Her voice was strong but smooth, like polished oak. "Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to stand before you as the new Senior Vice President of Global Strategy. But before we talk numbers, projects, and KPIs, I want to talk about something far more important." The room was still. Respect. Alicia let the word hang in the air. "This morning, before anyone knew my name or my title, I was spoken to with assumptions, treated as someone lesser, simply based on appearance. That experience isn't new for me. And I imagine, for some of you here, it's not new either." Some staff looked down. Others looked straight at her, quietly empowered. "I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm here to build a better environment. One where every single person, no matter what they look like, where they come from, or what title they hold, is treated with dignity. From the intern to the CEO." Mark's face was crimson. "I value transparency, accountability, and fairness. If we're going to innovate as a company, we need to start with how we treat one another. Otherwise, all the strategy in the world won't matter." Alicia paused, scanning the room. "I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for awareness. We can learn, or we can remain blind. One builds companies. The other breaks them." The team nodded. Some seemed genuinely moved. A few clapped quietly. Alicia closed her laptop. "That's all for now. I look forward to building something powerful with all of you." As the staff filed out, Mark lingered. He waited awkwardly until the room was nearly empty, then stepped forward. "Ms. Brooks." She looked up, not cold but guarded. "I owe you an apology. A sincere one." She waited. "I judged you. I assumed things without even letting you speak. That's shameful. I've worked here for 10 years, but today I acted like someone who didn't deserve the badge I wear." He exhaled, lowering his voice. "I know sorry won't erase it, but I want to do better. I want to learn." Alicia didn't smile, but her expression softened. "Thank you for saying that. I don't expect forgiveness. I needed to say it out loud." Alicia nodded. "That's a start." Mark turned to leave, but Alicia called after him. "Mark." He turned. "You've worked here 10 years. That means you know this company inside out." "Yes." "Then I hope you will use that experience to help me make it a place where everyone feels like they belong." He straightened his posture, surprised. "I will." She met his eyes. "We rise when we stop assuming and start listening." Mark nodded, humbled in a way he hadn't been in years. As he walked out, Alicia looked out the glass wall behind her. The city stretched endlessly beyond. She had just stepped into power, but already she was using it to heal, not harm. She wasn't just a boss. She was a force of change. Weeks passed, and Alicia's presence began to reshape the company from the inside out. She wasn't the kind of leader who hid behind her title or her glass office. She walked the floors, knew names, asked questions. She listened, not just to reports, but to the stories behind the numbers. Where others saw data, she saw people. It didn't take long for word to spread. She actually asked about my project, whispered a junior designer to her colleague. "And remembered my name," added the colleague. eyes wide with admiration. At first, the staff was cautious. Could this really be genuine? Was she just making a good first impression? But Alicia didn't change. She kept showing up with the same integrity, the same poise, the same commitment. Gradually, even the skeptics began to soften. Then came her first big decision. Alicia had spent her first month reviewing the company's existing structures, and one issue kept rising to the surface: diversity in leadership. Or rather, the lack of it. The executive board was composed of 11 individuals. 10 were white. 1 was Asian. Not a single black or Latinx leader sat at the highest table. She didn't accuse. She didn't scold. She did what powerful, intelligent people do. She brought data and a plan. At the next board meeting, Alicia presented her findings. Bar graphs, timelines, performance outcomes correlated with team diversity. It was all there. Studies show that diverse teams outperform by 35%, she stated firmly. We're leaving not just talent behind, we're leaving money behind. There was a moment of silence. One of the board members cleared his throat. Are you suggesting we promote based on quotas? Alicia shook her head. I'm suggesting we remove the barriers that prevent qualified individuals from being seen. She let the slide change. The talent is here. We just haven't been looking in the right places. Some board members nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. But Alicia wasn't here to make them comfortable. She was here to make them better. And she did. Within 3 months, she developed a new mentorship initiative focused on lifting mid-level managers from underrepresented backgrounds into senior leadership pathways. She didn't demand favoritism. She demanded fairness. Her initiatives included anonymous project reviews, bias training, and open access mentorship sessions. Slowly but surely, the climate began to change. Mark, who had once insulted her without knowing who she was among the first to volunteer for the training. He sat through every session, asked thoughtful questions, and even began mentoring younger staff from diverse backgrounds. One afternoon, Alicia saw him in the cafe, chatting with a quiet, brilliant analyst named Darnell, a young black man who had once considered quitting due to feeling invisible. Mark was laughing. Darnell was smiling. Something had shifted. Alicia knew it wasn't magic. It was intention. Real change isn't loud. It's consistent. Then came the National Summit. The company was hosting its annual Innovation and Inclusion Conference, a major event streamed across platforms and attended by CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influencers from across the country. Alicia was invited to give a keynote. She stepped onto the stage in a sharp black suit, gold earrings glinting under the spotlight. The room hushed as she approached the podium. Some of you may know me as the SVP of Global Strategy, she began. But before the suits, the offices, and the titles, I was just a girl from Atlanta with big dreams and little patience for injustice. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I've worked in places where people looked right through me. I've been mistaken for assistants, interns, even catering staff, while holding executive power. A knowing murmur filled the hall. And that's why I'm here. Not just to lead, but to open doors. Because the future of innovation doesn't look like just one thing. It looks like all of us together. Applause thundered across the room. Online, her speech went viral. Who is Alicia Brooks? This woman just changed the game. Leadership goals. Back at the office, employees gathered around screens to watch her. Even the CEO sent a message. You've reminded us what true leadership looks like. Thank you. But for Alicia, it wasn't about applause. It was about legacy. She walked back into the office that evening quietly. The lights had dimmed. The floor was mostly empty. She stopped by the window, looking out at the city below. From where she stood, she could see reflections in the glass. Herself, this space, this journey. And yet, she knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 6 months later, the company didn't just look different. It felt different. There was a new rhythm in the air, a quiet energy that buzzed through every floor, every department. People walked with more confidence. Ideas flowed more freely, and collaboration became natural, not forced. The staff turnover rate dropped significantly, and the company's latest quarterly report showed a spike in productivity and employee satisfaction. Numbers told one story, but eyes told another. The eyes of people who finally felt seen. One of the biggest changes? The rise of individuals who had once been overlooked. Like Naomi, an introverted data analyst who'd been in the company for 5 years without a single promotion. Under Alicia's new initiative, her projects were reviewed blindly, without any names attached. Within weeks, her ideas were being praised by senior executives. "She's brilliant," one director had said in a meeting. "She's been here for years," Alicia had replied gently. "We just weren't listening." Naomi is now head of data insights. Then there was Justin, a young intern who had struggled with stuttering and anxiety. He'd often been passed over in meetings. But Alicia had noticed him staying late, building models on his own time, trying to prove himself. Instead of pushing him, she asked, "What would help you feel more confident?" Justin now leads a team of 6 and speaks on panels about accessibility in the workplace. And then there was Mark, the same Mark who once mocked Alicia in the lobby, who had assumed, at first glance, that she didn't belong. He had gone through his own transformation, quietly. He didn't announce it on LinkedIn, didn't broadcast it in team meetings. But the change was visible in his behavior. One afternoon, Alicia was reviewing a report in the open-floor lounge when Mark approached her. "Do you have a second?" he asked, voice steady but unsure. "Sure," she said, closing her laptop. He sat down across from her. A long pause followed before he finally spoke. "I wanted to apologize," he said. "Not just for that day, but for everything that day represented." Alicia watched him, silent but open. "I judged you," he continued, "without even realizing I was doing it. And I think that scared me the most." She nodded slowly. "Awareness is the first step. Accountability is the second. You've taken both." Mark looked down, then back up. "You changed this place," he said, "and you changed me." It was a simple exchange, but in it lived decades of undoing, of healing, of waking up. The truth is, Alicia didn't need Mark's apology, but she understood the weight of it for him, that in some way, acknowledging his blind spot was part of his liberation too. Later that month, the company hosted an internal showcase, Voices of Change. Each department highlighted projects that had emerged through the company's new inclusive systems. There were panels, showcases, and even a short film about transformation within the workspace. One segment featured interviews with staff about what the changes had meant to them. "She made it okay to dream here again," one said. "I feel like I belong," said another. "I stopped looking for jobs elsewhere," laughed a third. At the end of the film, the camera cut to a shot of Alicia standing at the top floor, overlooking the city, and a voiceover played. "Sometimes, the people we overlook the most are the very ones who are meant to lead us." It was powerful. It was quiet. It was true. Backstage, Alicia stood alone for a moment, watching the audience absorb the moment. Tears brimmed in some eyes. Smiles stretched across others. Even the company's founder, an older man with years of corporate tradition in his bones, stood to clap with genuine respect. He walked up to her, held out his hand. "You were exactly what this company needed," he said, "even when we didn't know it." Alicia smiled softly. "Sometimes the best things aren't recognized at first glance." He nodded, eyes filled with a mixture of admiration and apology. As the event ended and people began to filter out, Alicia took a moment to herself again. She sat quietly in her office, the one she had entered that first day as the new executive, unrecognized, underestimated. She thought of the stares, the assumptions, the quiet whispers. And she smiled, because every single one of them had been a stepping stone. They thought they were judging her, but really, they were revealing themselves. And in doing so, they made it possible for her to lead with clarity, purpose, and grace. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, casting gold across her office windows, Alicia whispered a quiet truth to herself. "I didn't have to change who I was. I just had to stay long enough for the world to catch up."